Mom says hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, baby doll. Believe me, I'm looking at my watch. He better not be getting any more time than me.
Love you guys.
See you.
Love you, honey. Bye-bye.
Love you.
Bye. Love you. Bye. Anywho, ready for some more questions, more interrogation?
Sure.
All right. Do you want to get closer to the camera? That way we can see your beautiful face. Oh, look at that.
So you zoom on this thing?
Oh. I mean, I can see you, but it's you're way back there.
That's because I'm leaning back.
Oh, well, it's fine. Leave it. Your last one was like this too. It was just fun.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good. Well, let's jump in. Did you get the text with the questions?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll just run through those, and we'll. I might give you follow-up questions as you pique my interest. Sound good?
Sure.
All right. So the first one was about Uncle George's farm. I just want to hear a little bit about that. I don't know that anybody, right? No one else in the family lineage has any context around living on, working, being part of farm life. So I want to kind of just talk about that, mostly for me. So tell me about growing up and working on Uncle George's farm.
Well, I started working for my Uncle George after I got out of 8th grade. I worked for him every summer through the winter of 1962. 61. So I worked for him for like 5 or 6 years.
All right.
And eventually, when I first started out, I don't know why. I don't know how I got out there, but I did. I didn't have a job for the summer, I guess. I don't know. I was 12. I started delivering papers when I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I delivered papers for the Des Moines Register 7 days a week for several years. And then I delivered papers for the Daily Iowan. And the good deal about that one was I didn't have to collect because you had to go around. It's not like it is now. I mean, they didn't just charge you, send you a bill. The paper boy had to actually go around and get the hard cash.
Okay.
Which made it like being a slave. So anyhow, I didn't have a job for the summer when I got out of school. I probably did, but I don't remember. And I ended up going out to Uncle George's to work.
Yeah.
And Uncle George and Aunt Anna Marie Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was a Miller, so it was my mom's brother.
Okay.
They had 7 kids. Mary Ann was the oldest, and was and still is a year older than I am. And they went all the way down to babies.
Okay.
I don't remember the birthdays. Dean is the last child, and he was born. He was born when I was already working out there, so he's a lot younger than I was.
Yep.
Anyhow, I just did everything that a farm kid does. I drove tractors. I worked. I baled hay. We combined oats. We fed cattle. We fed hogs. We moved hogs. We cultivated a lot of corn. Made a lot of hay. Just things to support the farm.
Yep.
Every day would be. I don't remember what time we got up, but it was like clockwork. I imagine it was probably 6:30 or 7. And my Uncle George didn't talk much, so I'd get up in the morning and go buy the breakfast. It was 7 kids, George and Anna Marie, and me, and we lived in this little house. It wasn't a little, yeah, it was a little house. It's a little house with 7 kids. They had 1 bathroom and 1 sink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for cosmetic sink.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to time your bathroom calls really good. Um, but anyhow, you just sort of knew what you were supposed to do. If he had something for you to do, he'd tell you. But you didn't talk to him again until maybe 6 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
If you're cultivating corn, and cultivating corn is riding the tractor, going between the rows of corn, and there's mechanical device on the tractor that knocks the weeds out between the corn.
Okay.
So we did that for a lot of the time because I would
Mhm.
get out there the first week of June or so, and they already had the corn planted, and that comes up. That would last probably till at least the 4th of July or so, and then the oats would be coming in, and you'd combine the oats, bale the straw, you get straw out of oats.
Mhm.
Did that, and then you're making hay. You're making hay the last week of May, and then like the second, third week of August, the second crop. And my first job when I was out there is he gave me a 5-gallon bucket of grease and a paintbrush, and I had to grease the disc that was used in the spring. And the disc is just what it sounds like. It's got big silver metal cylinders on it, and it goes along the ground and breaks the ground up.
Okay.
And so when it's all over with, if you don't grease them, they get rusty.
Okay.
So he took good care of his equipment, and that
Mhm.
was my first job, and that was a mess. Um, and I'm sure they had some giggles about it, but George was very straight faced. You never knew if he was happy, sad, or whatever. So uh, that's about it. I did that for a lot of years. You know, I did that for a lot of years. The first year I made $90, and I ended up giving that to Regina High School for my tuition.
Okay.
Um, so I included room and board. And I'd get home to see my folks. They only live like 13 miles away, but in Iowa, anything over 30 feet is like pack a lunch. You know,
Mhm.
they still think that way. They think driving to Cedar Rapids, which is 20 miles from Iowa City, is like just going to Mars.
Uh-huh.
So, but anyhow, that's what I did. I didn't.
Yep.
Mary Ann was the oldest, and she and Denny Ehrenberger were hot and heavy. They were dates, going with each other. And as it turned out, once I got to high school, the first thing I did was get married. So,
Yep.
And then the oldest three were girls, Sharon and Susan, and then the boys were David, Don, Steve, and Dean.
Okay.
So Marion got married. David, the oldest boy, committed suicide when he was a freshman in high school. Well, I don't even know if he was that old. I think he was 12.
Wow.
So he's probably going to be a freshman. But he committed suicide, and nobody ever knew why. They just
Yeah.
The boys were out playing basketball in the side yard, and someone said, "Where's David at?" And they went in the garage, and they're hanging from a rafter. So,
Wow.
um,
Oh, that's sad.
and then Steve, which was the third boy, he died of leukemia.
Hmm.
Uh,
Like young or later in life?
he had just gotten married, and they had a baby.
Mhm.
In fact, the baby they had just died
Oh.
in real life.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then Steve's wife, who was left as a widow,
Mhm.
died in a car wreck about 2 years after that.
Wow.
So that whole family's wiped out. Steve and his wife and Steve Jr. are wiped out.
Yeah. It's tragic.
Uh, yeah. So I loved them dearly. They were very good people. My Aunt Annie was, uh, people that have a lot of kids are just, I think, basically really good people. The kids are all well behaved.
Yeah.
Because they have to help each other all the time to get stuff done.
Yeah. You're kind of naturally trained to be selfless. You got to be thinking of everybody else.
Well, besides that, your mother says, do this. And then after that, you don't have to say, do this anymore because that's your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
And that's about it, really. I don't know what else you want me to tell you.
Well,
I mean,
go back.
they were long days. I mean, we would get up at 6:37, eat breakfast. Would be you'd gas up your tractor or do whatever you're going to do. You're out working. You fed if your job was to feed the hogs or feed the cattle or feed the chickens or whatever your job was that day. That was my job for the whole summer.
Yeah.
And I guess toward the end I was doing most all of it.
Mhm.
Maybe not, but it seemed like I was doing all of it. But I didn't mind. I didn't even think about it. Just something to do.
Mhm.
And then we'd quit probably 4:30 or 5.
Yeah.
Get the chores done and then go in and wash your hands and wash your face and eat dinner and watch some TV and go to bed. And that was 7 days a week. So we didn't really work on Sundays. We always went to church.
Yeah.
Always went to church on Sunday.
What time did you start in the morning?
We were up by 6:30 or 7.
Okay.
Anna Marie would have a full breakfast for us, bacon, eggs, blah, 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 whatever. It was because we worked hard. I mean, we actually worked hard. And then every day at noon, we would break, go in and have dinner. Same thing. It was a big meal.
Mhm.
And at 1 o'clock, George would get up off the couch. Oh, he would eat and then he would lay down sideways on the couch
Mhm.
and go to sleep. And he'd sit up exactly around the dot of 1 o'clock every day. I don't know how the hell he knew it, but he did. And off we'd go again for the rest of the afternoon, and then we'd quit 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that.
Huh.
We never took a day off. Never ever took a day off.
Yeah.
Just to screw around or whatever.
Mhm.
Unless it was raining and he couldn't get in the fields or something for whatever reason, and all the other chores were done. All the equipment was working fine, and blah blah blah. And you had enough shelled corn for the hogs or whatever it happened to be. If there's nothing much else to do, then we'd go fishing.
Okay.
And we used to catch a hell of a mess of fish, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It was right by the Coralville Reservoir. We used to catch a lot of catfish, a lot of garbage fish, but mainly catfish. Got
Okay.
a lot of it.
Yeah.
What else?
Step back to the paper route. So you did a paper route every day, delivering 2 different newspapers. And was that early in the morning? Was that all year round?
They're both early in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, dark 30.
And
The one register had a Sunday paper, and that was really big. It was thick, like a Sunday paper is, like a
Mhm.
Dallas Morning News or something. Although they're not nearly as big now as they used to be, because that used to be the only news.
Mhm.
I don't remember how many people I had on my route, but I had 2 different routes. I had one that was in the northeast side of Iowa City, and I don't know how many papers there were, probably 80, 60, 80, 70, something like that.
Mhm.
And on the Sunday in the wintertime, when it snowed, I had, what an orange crate looks like?
An orange crate?
Yeah. Back in the
Sort
old
of.
days, we used to have orange crates, and they're made out of wood.
Mhm.
They were probably 18 inches wide and probably 36 inches long, and they had a partition in the middle, and that's how they put the oranges in. And I would use that on top of my sled to drag it down the middle of the street when there's snow in the street, because they weren't real good about getting the streets cleaned up.
Mhm.
So they pulled that along, and then they had to stop about halfway and go back and refill it.
Yeah.
And then come Thursday, I had to go collect the money.
Yeah.
And did that, and then I had a downtown route too, and that was for the Des Moines Register also, and that was I don't know how many people, but that wasn't so bad because I did the downtown store, so the customers were kind of like one after the other. And
Yep.
it was right on the campus, the University of Iowa campus there. So um, it was just a nice residential area. It was just like house, 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 house.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good. And there's always some place you could stop to get in to get warm. On that other route, you never get warm. You freeze
Yeah.
to death. You didn't keep moving. And it didn't have to. And then I got a job delivering papers for the Daily Iowa, which was a school newspaper, and
Mhm.
did that for I don't know how long, probably another year or two, and didn't have to collect. That was a good deal about that one. But I had like 300 papers,
Oof.
5 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week. I can't remember. I think it's six. Might have been six.
How long would that take you?
Take me
Remember?
a long ass time. Um,
Couple of hours? What?
well, I rode my bike. I got real good. I could ride my bike and never touch my brakes well, my brakes are on my feet. But this is single speed, big balloon tires.
Mhm.
Oh, that's something I did. I got that bike by delivering newspapers, the Morning Register.
Mhm.
And when you turned your money in, if you put in 50 cents, they would put in 50 cents. And when you got up to, I don't remember what it was. It seemed like it was a lot of money, $60 or something like that. You could get a bike, and I got a
Nice.
bike. Columbia. It was a good bike, really good. Big fat tires on it.
Uh-huh.
Had a horn and the thing in the middle and tassels, and it was a good one. So,
Yep. Mhm.
anyhow,
Baseball cards? Any baseball cards in the spokes?
no, a lot of kids did, but I didn't do that.
Okay.
Um, although I collected baseball cards, used to swap them. Chicago White Sox and the Cubs. Chicago was the team for Iowa because there's
Okay.
nothing around. There's nothing around where we were raised, so
Mhm.
that was the closest big city, and that's about it.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite card? Do you remember what player?
Minnie Minosa.
Minnie Minosa.
Minnie Minosa. He played for the Chicago White Sox. He was a black player. He was really good.
Yeah.
Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks played for the Cubs. He was a
Okay.
black player too.
Yeah.
He says, isn't it such a great day? Let's play two. And they would. They played double headers. So
That's awesome. Well, I want you to tell the story of you going out. Well, not on a bender. I was about to exaggerate and say, but going out drinking and then coming to work the next morning with Uncle George and what he would have you do.
oh, Jesus. Well, so I went out with the guys from Solon one night. George and Anne Marie lived on the farm, probably 5 miles from Solon, Iowa.
Mhm.
And there's a little place up the road, probably another 10 miles away, called Swisher, Iowa. And they had a dance hall there.
Mhm.
And of course, I was at the age, most of the time I was in high school, but, 14 to 16 to 17, and there's girls up there too. The farm girls are pretty good looking. So we used to go up, me and the guys, we used to go up to Swisher.
Mhm.
And of course, you can get drinks and stuff like that. And so one night, I can't remember it that clearly. I remember, anyhow, the long and the short of it is I woke up in the morning and a hell of a headache. I was hungover, bad, really
Mhm.
bad. And when when a sow farrows or when a sow has her pigs, we had farrowing sheds.
Mhm.
And the farrowing sheds are probably 4 feet high, something like that. And they
Yeah.
were probably, I don't know, 12 feet long, maybe.
Mhm.
And they had wooden floors, wooden walls, wooden everything. And so George thought it would be a good idea that if that I should clean farrowing sheds all day. And you couldn't stand up in them. I mean, they were waist high. It was about as tall as they got, probably maybe chest high.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, he never cracked a smile or said nothing. You know, you didn't know you were in trouble. You were just in trouble. You knew it. So anyhow, that was my story on that. It was a long day. A long day.
So, so what were you cleaning out? I mean, did they just had like Frito wrappers and Dr. Pepper cans? What are you talking about?
No, it was old. It was old. It was old from the time they farrowed before. So it probably been. I think they farrowed twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember that part. I was only out there in the summer, so that's the only time I remember. But anyhow, they were dirty from before, and they would pull them in from the field. They'd have them out in the field. That's when they had like fields that had hay in them, hay
Mm-hmm.
like alfalfa or clover or whatever it happened to be. And they would
Yep.
position these farrowing sheds around these fields, around
Mm-hmm.
the big field.
Yeah.
I don't know how many. I don't know how many sows he farrowed. He must have farrowed 20 or 30, something like that.
Wow.
So that'd be there's probably an average of seven pigs per litter. They could have litters up to 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
I think it probably averaged seven to eight, maybe. So
Wow.
that's 8 times 20. That's 168, 30, 240. Probably a couple. They probably did a couple hundred hogs a year, twice.
Hmm.
You know, so there's a lot of taking care of them. I mean, you just didn't forget to feed the dog that day.
Yeah.
And you had to clean out the stalls, and you had to. There's a lot of work to being a farmer. It's like the cattle. He'd go out west, out to Colorado or out to Montana or someplace, and he'd buy cattle for like, you know, and have them hauled back in, and they were wild. I mean, they'd never been penned up before,
Mm-hmm.
and he would run probably 150 head of those things a year too, depending if corn prices were low. If corn prices were low, you'd get cattle because that's the way you sold the corn, is through the cattle, literally.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
corn-fed beef, basically, is what you mean.
Oh yeah, it was really good. It's the best stuff in the whole world.
Yeah.
We don't have any idea what beef really tastes like anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is good. I guess that's about it.
Well, that was only the first question.
Yeah, I know.
We're 26 minutes in.
Well, it won't be much longer. So how did I choose the university I went to, and how did you choose business operations as a direction? It's probably a short and sad. It's probably a short and sad story, and one you've never heard, but I'm going to tell it anyhow.
Okay.
When I went to high school, I
Mhm.
didn't study. My claim to fame is I never took a book home in all 4 years of high school,
Mm-hmm.
and my grades showed it.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, I had a 2 point flat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever had an A.
Yeah.
I might have had some B's, but they're few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a good time. So when I enrolled at the University of Iowa, they put me on probation because my grades weren't good enough.
Yeah.
So I had to maintain a 2 point average
Mm-hmm.
when I went for my freshman year,
Okay.
first semester. And I got a 1.8.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So second semester I laid out. In fact, I went back out to George's and worked for him for the winter months. Because you still need corn ground and cattle fed and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I made, but I didn't make very much. But then I decided I still wanted to go to college. So I went to Muscatine Junior College in Muscatine, Iowa.
Okay.
And I went there for a year and a half
Mm-hmm.
and got my grades up.
Yep.
And then I went to Upper Iowa University for 2 years.
Yep.
And got my degree there.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a bunch of people that were at Upper Iowa, so it wasn't like I was going off in the world by myself. There's several of my high school classmates and stuff up there.
Yeah.
And the other question was, how did I get into business? I got into business because I needed to get a damn job when I got out, and that's the only concern I had was getting a job.
Uh-huh.
And business administration looked like it would be the best one because it was, like I said, it's business administration.
Mm-hmm.
So I did good. I did good at Upper Iowa. I was on the dean's list, I think, twice.
Mm-hmm.
I finally learned how to study.
Yeah. How did that happen? How did you go from being proud of not bringing a book home to getting pretty good grades? How did that happen?
How did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I decided I wanted to get a college degree, and I better get my ass studying.
There you go. Okay.
So that's the advice I would. If I had to do it all over again, I would tell my parents get on my ass and make me get good grades.
Yeah.
My parents never said anything to me about grades, never once.
Hmm.
We didn't talk about stuff like that. We didn't talk about grades. I mean, you went to school and Jimmy's doing as good as he can, I guess, but it was never even discussed. So anyhow, that's how I got through college.
It's interesting.
So I graduated in 5 years.
Okay.
I was one of the leaders of the pack, breaking the 4-year degree.
Oh yeah. You weren't satisfied with only 4 years. You needed
Nobody
5.
was paying. Yeah, but nobody was paying for my time. I paid for my own way through college.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I knew I wasn't getting any favors from anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I get that. So what
anyway,
year was that? When did you graduate?
1966.
1966. And then
Or I would have graduated in 65 if I would have stayed in school in Iowa City. So
right.
anyhow, and then in the summer times I worked construction. I was a laborer in the union. I
Okay.
was unionized. I can't remember the name of the union though. But I did pipelines as a brick and construction.
Mm-hmm.
Did all kinds of stuff. Hard work.
Yeah. Harder than the farm work?
Oh yeah, much harder.
Okay.
Because there's somebody there pushing me all the time.
Yeah.
Farm work, you got pushed every once in a while. The rest of the time, you took kind of a leisurely pace and went from one job to the next, to the next, to the next.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a hell of a. You just had so many things that needed to get done that day.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of pace yourself. You didn't really pace yourself through them, but you just walk through them. So
Gotcha.
anyhow,
Well, this is good. We're at about the 30-minute mark. We could take a break here and get together again in another week.
sure.
Sound good?
Warranty, yeah. Anyhow, it says here, how did you choose business operations as your direction? I have a Bachelor of Science, business administration and economics.
Yep.
Major. And a history minor because it was easy.
Yeah.
So that's
good.
it.
That's good. Well, we'll talk more. I actually have more questions, but I want to make these, like we said last time, I want to make them bite size.
Okay. So, all right.
Good deal.
Then I'll tell you about my first job.
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll make that the first question for next time.
I already told you about 3 or 4 or 5 of my first jobs already.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking more like the data documents type of jobs. the business
Oh,
jobs, but
you,
we'll get
you
to
didn't
that.
want to talk, you didn't want to talk about the U.S. Air Force as a job?
Well, I do want to talk about that. I was going to ask that earlier, but that we're at time. So I'll ask about going into the Air Force and as much as you want to talk about Vietnam and Cambodia and such on the next one.
Okay.
Good.
Mom
right.
said, Mom says hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, baby doll. Believe me, I'm looking at my watch. He better not be getting any more time than me.
Love you guys.
See you. Take
Love
care.
you, honey. Bye-bye.
Love you.
Bye. Love you. Bye.